the Exit Teams podcast, where business owners and their advisors get real practical insight on how to build a team of advisors, maximize value, and exit on their own terms. I'm your host, Bob Tankesley, author of Exit Teams. Build a team of advisors for your business sale to get a higher price. You can find that book on Amazon. Just start typing in Exit Teams, and it should be the first item that shows up. Hey, don't forget to check out all the content we continue to build on exitteams.com. Whether you're years away from selling or thinking about an exit now, this episode is packed with must-know tips to help you avoid costly mistakes. So let's dive in. Hey, today I'm joined by an expert in the world of human resources, my good friend Scott Williams. Scott founded TSG HR in 2001 and has assembled a global network of human capital experts. He is often sought out for his skills in maximizing workforce and strategic performance, removing cultural barriers, and reducing HR functional costs. Scott and his team of HR experts provide expertise and thought leadership in all areas of human resources and human capital management. Scott, welcome to the show. This should be a fantastic conversation because the more M&A deals I do in the lower middle market, the more I see that HR is a powerful and frankly, an often overlooked layer of risk. So welcome.
It is. It is. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I look forward to having a chat with you.
Yeah. Well, you and I have known each other for what? I was trying to think the other day of how far back.
Something
What's
like
that?
18 years?
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably not long after you started TSG HR. So here we are. Let's inform the audience with what you got.
Yeah, and we're now, believe it or not, at 25 years.
Yeah.
So it's been an incredible ride, and you've been a big part of that. So appreciate you.
Happy to help. And let's give the audience what they came for. Hey, let's talk about HR risk and value protection, because I've noticed when owners think about protecting value, they tend to focus, rightly so, and you can't blame them. They tend to focus on financials or operations, but people-related risk is one of the least visible and yet most impactful areas. Most often, owners think of it as some HR as some kind of back office admin, but you position risk.
A necessary evil.
Yeah. But I've noticed over the years, you position HR management as a risk mitigation and value protection system. Why is that a critical distinction for business owners?
Well, as you said rightly, Bob, that many folks in the operational world, they see the function of the organization in dollars and cents, but what they tend to forget time and time again is that people can be their greatest asset or their worst nightmare. And a lot of people that are looking just at the numbers tend to forget that the guy that's pushing the broom down the hallway has the ability to make a very strong impact on that company's profitability and eventual valuation whenever they're being acquired, or whenever someone's coming in to take a look at what the value of that company is going to be. The unfortunate thing is when you hear the term HR, a lot of people think, oh, well, you guys are going to take care of everything from legal compliance, payroll, benefits, and all that. But 95% of our industry is calling themselves HR, but they're not really HR. What they are is payroll companies that have someone stuck in the corner that might do something about a handbook or hand out a form, or they're trying to sell benefits to you. And the same thing, they have someone that is, going to help them out. Maybe if they need to talk about a PTO structure. What we do, just to set the landscape for this conversation, we focus on employment compliance. And that is all the employment laws and regulations that a company must be in compliance with in order to avoid losing any type of challenge from a federal agency or your friendly neighborhood attorney. So when we talk about risk mitigation and value, what we're doing is trying to protect the bottom line of our clients by putting in the proper policy, practice, procedure that are in direct relationship to what the laws and the regulatory agencies require. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to people. You take care of your people, they'll take care of you. You don't take care of your people, a lot of bad things happen, and that's where deals blow up.
That's exactly why I wanted to have you on the show, because I knew you would come in strong with, that perspective. You've seen problems, you've cleaned up issues, you've seen where it directly impacts the bottom line, though the owner may not think so. And ultimately, let's put it on the table. It impacts value that owner
Oh,
could be get.
yeah, definitely. The average employment violation right now runs between 82,000, and if it gets really nasty and possibly drawn out, it could be 120,000. And that's all stuff that's found in the due diligence. And if a company is looking to acquire you, they don't take kindly to that. And the first question that most really good people that are doing the due diligence will ask is, do you have any pending litigation?
Ah,
Huh, let me think about that. No, we don't. Oh, by the way, here's a demand letter. And then, as I said, a lot of times these things come up from nowhere because they're not thinking about it and it blows up the deal.
when someone else from the outside starts reviewing the business closely, these things tend to come up. You kind of getting in my next question here, and that is the HR issues that most often surface in due diligence. What have you noticed that can erode value, or slow a sale? Certainly,
Yeah.
um, pending litigation, or let's call it conditions that they didn't know about, which the buyer may be concerned about later.
Yeah, those skeletons that you don't think about that come back to haunt you. Some of the biggest ones are very weak retention strategies, not being able to keep the talent that is truly generating your profitability. Even in a tight market, when you have that really skilled individual, I guarantee you there's 3 or 4 recruiters out there calling them up saying, hey, what do you think about this opportunity? So those retention strategies are generally very weak. Hitting compliance issues, like I was saying previously, a lot of times they're not even looking at them until it's smacking their face, slapping them around and saying, hey, dummy, wake up. And
Yep.
then it's too late at that point. Um, Poor workforce planning. A lot of times when companies are growing, well, they're looking at, okay, we're going to increase sales by 20%. Great, get out there and sell. But they don't think, what does the company need in order to meet those demands? And that's when you have orders becoming late. You have orders being lost. You have upset customers. And I guarantee you that is a surefire way to ruin your valuation. And the last part is organizational structure, succession planning, things such as, where is the company going for the next generation? A lot of your listeners and viewers have probably heard the old adage, well, what happens if you get hit by a turnip truck? Who's going to take care of you? Well, general answer is, gee, I don't know.
Yep.
Those are the kind of things that are going to cause a company's value to go down and cause people looking to buy or to try to sell to just end the deals. When you're acquiring a company, I think you will agree, you're not just buying the revenue, you're buying people and the system.
That's
You
right.
know? And when you have a weak infrastructure, that could devalue your company by up to 20%. That's a lot of money, for, especially for a multi-million or possibly billion-dollar company. So those key areas: weak retention, hidden compliance, poor workforce planning, messy org structures. Those are the things that come back all the time to haunt people.
No, that's awesome. Appreciate you just, with your experience being able to come up with those three strong areas that owners need to pay attention to. And the question, uh, or the topic just hit me, and that is, do you find owners too often think they can do great things with the people they have, but really there needs to be some skills improvement. There needs to be some education. There needs to be maybe more people brought in. And conversely, when the company faces a huge challenge, do you think the owner too often thinks, well, we've got the right people internally already to handle this? Are these is this I think I know the answer to this, but is that a situation where that you run into pretty often?
It is. It really is. We had a client about 6 months ago just land a huge contract, and it required some high-end technical skill. And the owner, we're sitting there strategizing, and he's gone, "Don't worry, we got this covered. I got these two software engineers. They'll just knock it out of the park." So when it came down to actually going through the scope of work, and the client, the end user said, "Well, you need to have a software architect with this level of certification." You could just see the blood drain from his face because both of those software guys had no certification,
Wow.
no qualification. And I'm sitting there going, "We didn't talk about this, boss. And this is going to take at least probably 3 or 4 months to find the qualified candidates, not the individual, the candidates." And we scrambled. And I'm not saying that that was good. That was actually partially our fault for not getting in there going, "What are you going to do?" But too many times, owners do not want to expend any additional resources on finding the right talent. They want to use the talent that they have and kind of hope for the best, kind of fake it till you make it kind of stuff. And a lot of times that just blows up in their face. And we were able, thank God, on our recruiting section at my company to be able to know somebody that knew somebody that had a brother's cousin that was qualified. And we're calling them in the middle of the night going, "Hey, buddy, we got this opportunity for you." And thank God he said yes. That's the only thing that saved this guy from losing that contract. And that contract was about 22 million.
Oh,
So it was huge, but
big.
to your point, yes, a lot of times people are not looking at the future, and that gets back to the organizational structure. How do you support what you need now to continue to grow your business forward?
Yep. And all this raises the question of how much can be addressed before a buyer ever gets involved. How do you help owners literally proactively address HR risk before buyers start digging into employee files and policies? Because we know it's coming.
Yeah.
Buyers are getting more sophisticated. They're asking tougher questions.
And they know how to find those little dark corners that people have forgot about for months and years. Again, it gets down to being proactive in your actions, how you build the organizational infrastructure of your organization. It's not, "Let's take care of this today for tomorrow." It's, "Let's take care of this today for the next year, 2 years, 3 years." It's going to change. It's a living document, but it needs to be thought out carefully now versus wait till later. Department level compliance, and you'll hear me say this, several times. The problem isn't HR. The problem is managers. They don't know what they don't know. It's not
Mm,
necessarily their fault. They just don't know that, yeah, it's not good to ask one of their female engineers if they're going to get pregnant in the next 6 months. Okay, you don't ask those kind of questions, but those kind of questions still come up to this day. And we
yep.
have a charge right now, against one of our clients because the manager said that. You don't do that kind of stuff. So looking at the training levels that are within the department, removing the issues before they become problems, and making sure people fully understand what compliance truly means. And then most importantly, Bob, we talk about the laws and regulations, but a critical factor is the cultural element. It has now become so powerful with the generations that have come before us
It's
that we have people that will now reject an offer, a very lucrative offer, simply because it does not meet their ideological needs. Okay. And
interesting.
I don't know how much time we have, but I could go into an example there. But the cultural alignment is absolutely critical these days. And again, it's just one of those things that are overlooked. What that does is it slows the deal down because, yes, those are complications that needs to be dealt with. It also gets flagged in the due diligence process. And in many cases, it triggers a price reduction because, again, People don't want to buy problems.
Correct. Could not agree more. Sophisticated buyers are willing to pay top dollar where they find a company that's exceptional. So,
Exactly.
that's part of why I do some of these podcasts is to get these owners thinking about building an exceptional company. You mentioned compliance a couple of minutes ago. Let's talk about compliance and literal legal exposure because,
Yeah.
like it or not, compliance is one of those areas where everything can seem fine until suddenly it's not, and the consequences can be significant. So, what are some of the most common compliance blind spots you see from maybe
Yeah.
wage and hour classifications to harassment policies that could result in post-sale liabilities that could come back on the seller?
Right. And I will say that to your, followers that are of the legal profession, I do have good relationships with attorneys, but I also have challenging relationships with attorneys.
I'm sure.
So it's a love-hate deal. Well, um, blind spots that we see time and time again is in areas such as poor compensation design, things such as you have two basically identical people that one's getting paid this level, another's getting paid a different level. And when we see it, we have to ask why. Well, I know this guy. I've known him for, 20 years. Well, that's not a justification for paying him more for doing the same job and the same qualification as the next person that you don't know. Another area that we're dealing with right now is no commission governance. When do you pay people their commission on sales? Some people are saying, well, we're going to wait 6 months to pay someone for a deal that they just closed. Well, that person left. And now they're saying, well, I closed that deal before I left. I want the money. And they're saying,
I heard about
oh,
this just the other day from someone. Yeah, they
yeah,
were
yeah,
they knew they
it's
were being
happening.
scammed
Oh,
out of something.
exactly. And, when things don't go the way people want them to go, well, you have your friendly neighborhood attorney that's more than happy to jump in there and educate the employer.
Yep.
And, that's another area. Other things that come off the top of my head are poor employment agreements. The leadership team needs to have solid leadership agreements that cover the spectrum of areas that are critical to the values and the goals of that company. Don't have them, you're going to run yourself into trouble. Valuation process, succession planning, hiring practices. Those are the key areas that anyone that wants to bring a lawsuit or sue a company, those are the main topics because they're hard to defend against unless you have them in place. You can't just say, "Oh, we have a great succession plan," because what's the next question? Show me.
Show me.
Oh, well, I have beer with Bob every week. I
He
have a
he he
succession
under,
plan.
he understands what succession looks like around here, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, what's wrong with you? I mean, this is the way the business world works, right? No, it
Yeah.
isn't the way the business world works. If it's not documented, it never happened. And if you're not training your next level of leaders, they are going to dissipate and go away. And you're going to have to deal with the next level down that's just kind of trying to find the bathroom. They don't know what they're doing. So, those are a couple of the blind spots that people have to be looking out for. And most companies, I will say, are not non-compliant on purpose. They're generally misinformed, and in many cases, undocumented, meaning, they're talking to other colleagues. And I'm not going to diss Vistage International. Vistage International is a great organization. But if Tim next to you says, oh, yeah, you don't need employment agreements, I've had my company now for 50 years and I've done just fine. Well,
Meaning nothing's blown up yet.
nothing's blown up, but just wait, it will. And then you're going to be sitting there going, well, what the heck had just happened? Because now Tom is, questionable, but your employee now is looking at $250,000, $300,000 in damages.
Yeah. You know, it occurred to me, there's already a running theme here through our conversation, and one theme at least, and that is just addressing the very basic fundamentals of good HR management. Can keep an employer out of hot water to a large degree.
Yeah. And again, this is why when I hear, well, we're an HR company, would you like a payroll system? I go, oh my God, no, you are
Hmm.
not an HR company. You're a payroll company. Tell people who you truly are. If you're a benefits company, be proud of that. Be a benefits company. Be the best benefits company possible. Be the best payroll company possible. But don't say you're an HR company if you don't do employment compliance. I mean, we have a legal department behind us because legal has to be involved in these conversations. So if they're ever challenged, you have a legal stand to, work off of. These other companies, if anyone challenges them, they run for the hills. And actually, that's good business development for us
Right.
because that's when we go in there, we go, we told you.
Yeah.
But no, it's yeah, the common thread, as you said correctly, yes, is compliance. But make sure you know who you're dealing with because you will ask those difficult questions. And if that the company that's supporting you right now will not give you a legally viable answer other than send you to a local approved attorney, they're not helping you. They're just there for the paycheck.
This makes me think about how TSGHR brings a level of literally a level of accountability and oversight
Yeah.
to this area, which at the end of the day changes how owners approach risk. So, I mean, my next question would be how do you guys with some kind of guarantee, do you
Yeah.
help change the conversation about HR compliance for owners?
Yeah, we have what's called make them whole guarantee. And what
Oh
that
wow.
means is when I first set up the company back in 2001, people were out there making promises and throwing out glossy flyers. Again, I don't want to beat the theme here, but
You
again,
haven't you haven't named names, so you're safe.
oh, I'm holding back, Bob. I am so holding back. But uh, what's that law firm? No, I can't name names. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, the main gist behind starting this firm when I left corporate was to help those that are underserved, the middle market and the small business owner. But in order to do that, they have to have trust. They have to have trust that what we are telling them is legally viable. Can we do payroll? Yes, we do payroll. Can we do benefit administration? Of course, we do benefit administration. But our primary is making sure that they are within legal and regulatory compliance. And if at any time we give them bad information and that leads to legal or regulatory harm, meaning they get a charge or a demand letter, we will, at our own cost, get behind the employer and take care of it. We're not going to charge them a dime. Those other companies that I keep referring to have a clause, and you correctly say it all the time, the good Lord giveth and the good Lord taketh away. The clause is essentially a get out of jail free clause. It's in every contract that I've ever seen with the larger companies, the regional companies, and the small web-based companies that essentially say our service is all advisory. We will not provide any legal guidance. We strongly recommend that you seek legal
Okay.
counsel before any action is taken. For me, that's an insult to my industry because they're not providing any legitimate service. They're taking money from the client. We put money behind our guidance and will never put our client in harm knowingly. And thank God that after 25 years, we've never had to do the make them whole guarantee. But I'm telling you, it just bothers me because at the end of the day, the risk is on the owner. We put the risk on our shoulders.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what they're paying us to do. Give them good information that they can stand on. As I said, we have our own legal department. If at any time any of our support managers are questioning what something should be done, they pick up the phone, they text, they run it through to make sure that what we're telling our clients is exactly right. And we don't have escape clauses. That's what they're
I was
paying.
just wondering what, when you're talking a few minutes ago about the owner calling the payroll company and saying, "Hey, I got this issue. I think we're in trouble." I was imagining what that conversation sounded like, and it probably goes something like, once he eventually gets to the right person, not not the person who installed
Yeah,
the
right.
payroll, or the conversation probably goes something like, "Well, if I'm going to refer you to clause 8B subtitle 2A, wherein we say."
That's right.
uh,
And that is exactly right. And I am itching so bad, Bob, to name names here, but let's say there's a company that has 3 letters, okay, and it's a payroll company and it's really big here in Atlanta. But I can't say their name.
is the main color red?
Hypothetically, it is, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And I've always been told to say hypothetically. That way I'm legally okay.
Yep.
But here's the situation. I was sitting with the CEO of a $20 million business, and she was describing a situation that she had with one of her employees that had a particular health care issue, which it required what's called accommodation under Americans with Disability Act, ADA. And she called this 3 letter company. And to your point, she went through 4 different people that transferred her, asking her for her company number every single time. And she was frustrated. Finally, she got to the person that was her this week's account manager. And her account manager promptly said, "I'm sorry, I cannot answer that, but I'll be happy to refer you to a local attorney." And she said, "But I don't want to talk to an attorney. I want to talk to you because you guys sold your services as you would support us in HR." And then the lady kind of whispered into her phone. She says, "Ma'am, if I tell you any type of legal guidance, they'll fire me."
There
And
you go, folks.
the owner put down the phone. She said, "What can you do for us?" I said, "Look, we will give you legal guidance and we'll stand behind it." And that's what we do. So
Yeah.
yeah, it worked out well for us because, you know, again, they're selling an image, they're selling payroll or benefits, not HR.
Amazing. What the big
Let me-
print giveth, the small print taketh away.
There you
Hey,
go. That's what I was thinking of that. You've been saying that for years, and I was like, I'm gonna put that in there somewhere in the conversation.
so let's talk about culture,
Sure.
because not that it necessarily adds value to a transaction, but it certainly can keep a sophisticated buyer or buyer pool um, disengaged from a particular company if they notice that there's challenges, call it, in a company's culture. So, in your experience, how do professional HR systems around conflict resolution and performance management translate into better buyer confidence? We're talking,
Right.
at the end of the day, we're talking about, creating a robust, healthy culture in a business.
And let me tell you, Bob, I will have to contradict you. It does add a lot of value.
Okay.
Studies show that on average, an engaged workforce will provide a ROI of at least 15 to 1. Okay.
Wow.
So
$15,
$15
$1
for every
spent.
dollar invested. And that could be in compensation, benefits, perks, whatever the case may be. It's generally a 15 to 1 ratio with a company that's fully engaged with the KPIs, MBOs. And we have been involved with several companies that have somewhere around 16, 17 to 1 ROI. So culture is absolutely critical for getting the company to the point where buyers are kicking down the door trying to get in to buy, or for the seller saying, "Okay, here's our floor. We have something really good here, and you're going to be paying premium dollar in order to get at it." So,
That's what I
um,
often say is, all else being equal, if you have two companies that a sophisticated buyer like private equity or strategic
sure.
is looking at, everything is equal but for the culture. The culture of one company is just rotten, needs so much work, and the other is, wow, they've really taken care of a lot of things this is a company that everybody is respected, works well together. There's so many issues that they've dealt with and conquered. Which one are we going to choose?
And unless the buyer is looking for a fire sale, of
Good
which
point.
you and I
Yep.
both know that really doesn't go well with the owner.
Yep.
Um, I would always go for the one that is the path of least resistance, even though they may cost a little bit more. They have a track record of performance. But anyway, to your point, conflict resolution and buyer confidence. So, what that does when you have a fully engaged workforce, first, you have fewer legal and regulatory challenges. They're just not there because everybody feels part of something bigger. Okay. They know that objective, they know that they're going to be part of something big and they work hard to get there. They're not thinking, oh, did my boss just screw me over? Did she
Yep.
look at me wrong? No, they're saying, how can I take care of this to make the most money for my company?
It's like well-built systems pull the best out of people.
Absolutely. Very few people get up in the morning, Bob, and go, let me see how I can screw the company.
Yeah.
Most people get up and go, okay, I have a decent job, but how can I make it better? If you're there going, we hear you and we want to encourage you on your growth and your development. And if you stay with us and you help us grow, you're going to grow as well. Those people are unstoppable.
Yeah.
One of the most, and I'm sorry, I got off track on your question. I'll get back to it in just a moment. One of the phenomenal things that I've ever seen was a manager at Transition Lenses, which Transition Optical, came in and said to his production team, this is the guy sweeping the floor to the manager of that shift. Guys, here's our problem. I don't know what the problem is, but my job is to remove obstacles for you. But I want you guys to come up with the action plan. Give me a budget so I could take it upstairs and make it happen. Within about a week and a half, they figured it out. These are basically high school educated people that came up with a plan on how to overcome the problem. They came up with a budget. They came up with a very short, clean way of overcoming the problem. And darn it, if they didn't hit the production numbers within probably a month, because he took the management decision and put it down to where it could be solved. The person on the floor, they know how to solve the problem. You just got to give them that ability to do it and the confidence that they won't get smacked if it isn't right.
Yeah.
That's the culture part. But to your point, so if you have conflict resolution systems in place, it does increase buyer confidence because it reduces lawsuits. It also forces leadership into consistent decision making.
Yep.
We all know that leadership could be a herd of cats, and it is difficult to have one person in line with another. But if you have those processes in place, they're all talking the same language from the same page. You have clear accountability. I mean, how many times have we heard, okay, I don't recall. I don't, I have no recollection of that because they're dodging accountability. If you have, well, Scott Williams said he was going to do this, this, and this on this date, and Scott didn't get it done, guess what? It's on me. Okay.
What doesn't get documented almost doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. And because you have those processes in place, you're also getting early intervention for any problems. So, how does that translate to value? Well, it reduces risk, increases productivity, which equals higher value to the company because they're hitting all the goals and objectives.
I see the connection. It's a strong connection. And really you think about it, there's a broader conversation to be had here around culture, not just as a concept, but as something that drives measurable outcomes. What have you noticed is a way of building a stronger workplace culture that can contribute to long-term valuation beyond just checking off boxes?
Right, right. Well, getting back to what I was saying about that manager that allowed his team to come up with the ideas, everyone wants to be part of a great culture. Everyone wants to be part of a great team. I mean, it's very few can actually build that type of environment, Google, Apple, for the longest time, they were the place to be. I mean, I remember one gentleman, he graduated and he said, look, I will work for free if you get me into Google, because that was the culture. Okay. When it's done right, and we talked about ROIs before, when you have an employee driven environment, the research is showing that you should be in about the 12 to 13, maybe 14 ROI to one, 12 to 13 to one ROI. That is what you should be targeting at by way of productivity per employee. Your higher performers should be somewhere around 40 or 50. Okay. That's a phenomenal number, and I've not seen anyone to date really hit and sustain that 40, but there have been times that they have gone a quarter or two in the 40 range because they will not stop. They will not take no for an answer. They will, move mountains just to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And it is a beautiful thing to see. And it's done through, again, self-directed teams.
Yeah.
We as managers, I'm an owner, you're an owner, we have a certain degree of, I will say, arrogance. I'm the owner, I should know. But a lesson I learned a long time ago was I don't know everything. And the guy that just came to my team out of college knows a heck of a lot more than I do when it comes to technology and how to, transform what we're doing to the technology. And boom, things are happening. So, having people around you that are bought into the whole process makes it unstoppable. Now, another example, if I may, we had a company that is a parts manufacturer for a major airline, and they wanted to improve their sales by 30%. The CEO said, it's a little bit quirky, a little bit weird. If we make a 30% target, I will shave my head. Okay. The board looked at him and went, okay, psychological evaluation time. Come on over. But think about it. How much does it cost to shave one's head? Nothing.
Pennies, yeah, but sure, there's some long-term hair regrowth stage, but
Well, he has a
I see where you're
full.
going with this. The point was that stands out. That is very memorable in the minds of everyone who works there. I want to see this happen. I want to see the boss get his head shaved.
Exactly. Exactly. And we helped them align their goals. So everybody, even the receptionist, well, here's the thing. The KPI for the receptionist, you'll pick up the phone no later than 3 rings. Something as simple like that, but it was quantitative, it was measurable, and it went all the way up to the boardroom. Okay. Everybody was on board. We were not going to stop unless we got, and I emphasize we, even though I was outside and my team was outside, we were going to hit that 30 mark. Each week, the entire company would shut down for 10 minutes to have a review of where we stand on the matrix. And you could
Wow.
see weeks that we were going up, weeks we were going down. We checked the variance. Why did it go down? What happened? Correct. And we kept going up. They made it. They did a 32% increase at the end of the year.
Nice.
Okay. Their average ROI per employee was 15 to 1. And what they did in celebration for that team, they had a very nice dinner that was served by the leadership team to the workers. Okay. That's very important because you have this, when you
Wow.
think of the power scheme, here's your pyramid. Okay. Here's the top C levels. Down here's the guys, cleaning the floor. They went like this, they reversed it.
Huh.
So they made the point that without the guy pushing the broom on the floor, they don't have a company. Everyone got behind the drive and they made it. Add to
That'll be
the
a message not soon forgotten.
no, 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 no. To this date, they have a waiting list of about 4 months of people trying to get into the company. Okay. at
And
the
not a
celebration
Google,
station.
not an Apple. This stuff can happen at where I practice, and you spend a lot of your time too. This
Yeah.
stuff can actually happen in the lower middle market.
Easy, easy. It's probably easier
Probably
than
easier.
corporate because you have these preconceived notions that, yeah, we're not that kind of company, Scott. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could very well be. It's just they're larger, so it takes more time. But
Yep.
not only having the leadership team serve the employees and their families this very high-end dinner, they had the most junior person that just came on board. I think they were there about 3 weeks or 4 weeks, go up and actually shave the CEO's head. Okay. So it was by far the best cultural transformation that I've ever seen in my entire career, but it also showed that it can be done. Absolutely. And that means tangible dollars to the board, to the shareholders, as well as to the employees, if and when they ever sell.
Yep. Hey, let's take the conversation a little further in terms of the competitive landscape for a firm like TSG HR. Let's talk about maybe PEOs or maybe even, internal resources that the owner thinks they have. So I know I've noticed many owners, like we touched on this a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
many owners think they've got HR covered, but gaps still exist. And I know some companies out there, you mentioned payroll companies before, but I'll throw PEOs into the mix as well. What gaps do you notice um, that are still out there that you can help come in and fix?
Sure. And I'll try to make this brief. PEOs are favorite target because they love telling themselves it's this and then reality it's here. Um, PEOs don't know the client. They are a number. They avoid the gray areas and they will default to attorneys for any liability issues. So they're again generally just the payroll company with a flashy name or something to that. Um,
And
they
I've noticed on the front end, there's a big push, a big promotion of, hey, you can lower your overall healthcare costs. You can
Yeah,
lower your workers' comp costs by becoming part of our labor pool. But
yeah.
again, big print giveth, small
Right.
print sounds like it's taken away.
But what they're not saying is they're going to throw you into a pool of aging individuals on the benefit side. So your benefits are going to go down and your costs are going to go up. And they love playing the shell game. They will find out what you're more interested in. If it's benefits, well, then they'll give you free HR so that you get that nice little warm feeling. And then they'll nail you on your premiums or your costs for doing payroll. So, yeah, that's a PEO.
Yeah.
In-house, I have more of an affection for in-house people because at least they're trying. Usually, the in-house HR person is the person that was voluntold,
Yeah.
but they're now the designated HR person, and they're using Google or YouTube to kind of muddle their way through versus the person who, let's say, is in accounting and says, "Yeah, HR might be fun. Yeah, I'll do it," and then they just get clobbered with reality. What we do in many cases is like that is here's the HR person or designee. We come in and we bolt on to them as their go-to resource. Uh, I believe right now about 46% of our client base is that exact thing. They have an HR department, but they
Already.
utilize
Okay.
us as a resource. So the person that is the face of HR has the resources they need, but also what we do through our training is get them trained up to be SHRM certified, which is the governing body of the HR professionals. So, the gaps with PEO, yeah, it's just you got it. In-house, they they just don't have the resources that they need, and they are your single point of failure.
But you
And
guys can get them there.
the
I
yeah,
noticed people often ask me, how long does it take to get a company ready? And the bigger the company, the longer I tend to recommend. But I've noticed about 2 to 3 years seems to
yeah,
be the right length of time to fix all these issues and bring in the right level of support for a business that is preparing for exit. They're listening now and thinking about it. When is the right time, have you noticed, to bring in fractional HR leadership or an outsourced help desk like y'all have?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll keep this quite brief. For the sellers, it's about 3 to 4 years because it takes time to build the infrastructure, fix the issues, and start tracking their success through various metrics. For the
Right.
buyer, generally after the LOI is signed, identify the leverage points because it's not hard to scratch underneath the surface and see Pandora's box. And that would help reduce valuation for the PE or the VC firm.
Yeah. I notice, owners, they often only realize the need after something has gone
Correct.
horribly wrong in some cases,
Yeah.
or just even mildly wrong.
How did that happen?
We didn't prepare for that. We didn't budget for that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Who's at fault here? Jimmy, what are you doing? I'm an accountant. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's talk about, and I know you probably want to hit this hard, the most common HR mess that owners bring to you, that they thought they could handle themselves, and how did fixing it improve their business stability?
Yeah. The thing I hear Bob time and time again is we're a right to work state. I can fire anyone I want at any time for any
I hear
reason.
that a lot. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And the reality of that is, well, they can sue you for any reason at any time, and you better have your documentation in place. And the common thread for this question is documentation and processes. If you don't have it, you're just waiting to open up your checkbook and write a blank check because it will cost you. The vast majority of people just don't know what they don't know. Or again, they were talking to their buddy at the country club, and that's what he thought was the way to do it. And then there's reality. So, how does it bring stability? Again, when you have the processes in place, a valid handbook, good hiring practices, succession planning, not only do you have the documentation of how you do the processing, it shows that you're actually following up what you've committed to. And on the inverse side of that, your employees actually see that you are doing what you say you're going to do. And that helps immensely with turnover, with valuation, and with overall employee satisfaction. Some of the examples that we've run across are misunderstanding employment law. We were dealing with a case, and that settled for about $125,000. Gender discrimination, that was about $158,000. Um, there was two board disputes that we had to deal with, and we had to restructure the entire board after the lawsuit. And the shareholders did a vote of no confidence. Sorry, and basically the leadership team was removed and we had to reestablish the board, and that all is very expensive and time consuming, and it all came down to no process, no documentation, and most importantly, doing decision making from emotions, not fact.
Yeah. Well, that's well said. I think we're going to make that what you just said there, one of those shorts, those video shorts as they call it, and put that in different places.
Should
That's
I do it with a video? And one of the things is emotional decision making.
you would as you were talking, I was thinking too, from the standpoint of a buyer, as I'm often, you know, thinking from the standpoint of a buyer when I get introduced to a new company, and that is from the standpoint of a buyer, they want everything HR related and ops and finance and everything else buttoned up tight, especially that HR piece. Now that I think about it, because that's what's going to remain when the owner is out. And so no proper processes and procedures, no documentation, risks reduced to the minimum extent possible, on and on. Buyers, sophisticated buyers at least, they don't want to buy problems. They want to buy problems solved and
Correct.
solutions created.
Correct. And you
To
keep
really,
saying, I don't mean to interrupt, but you keep saying sophisticated buyers. I cannot tell you how many times we've run into non-sophisticated buyers. and we're educating them as to what they need to be looking at. And they're going, but we're the buyer. What are you talking about? And I'm like, you will get burned if you're not looking at A, B, and C and D. And you know, my team, we saved a lot of deals from blowing up at the table.
Yeah.
So I understand that you work with a lot of sophisticated buyers, but we've also seen a lot of non-sophisticated buyers as well. No disrespect, folks, but they're out there.
Yep. Yeah. Appreciate that distinction. Under the heading of you can call it operational HR and business readiness, because we talk a lot about exit here on the show. At a practical level, HR decisions show up directly in costs and risk and operational efficiency. I think hiring mistakes and problematic terminations, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, they actually cost companies. How do you help owners reduce these risks before they start biting into EBITDA?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Um, you've always heard the adage, hire slow, fire fast.
Yes.
The problem is, reality is they hire fast and fire slow. And again, if you do not have the processes in place, such as a 30, 60, 90-day introductory period, if you don't have a matrix that says the first 100 days you'll accomplish this and signed off by the individual first 200 days, you will find that you will forget about that individual.
You get floating and drifting away from the priorities and maybe even the reason the person was hired.
Exactly. They're wandering around trying to find the bathroom, not knowing what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
And, some of the numbers that we found is for a 9-month bad hire, that could cost the company up to $200,000 based on their position. For a 60 to 90-day bad hire, only 30 to 40,000. Okay. Those are still big numbers if you're turning people over, which I would hope everybody that's watching you is somewhere in the less than 5% range. But if you're higher than that, well, then you're losing money out the door. Okay. You have to stay on top of the new person coming in. The best way to do that, set up a buddy system, set up a weekly check-in, a monthly check-in. How are you doing? How are things going? Let's go through your accountables. Okay. Make sure that, because when you do that, in many cases, if the individual really wasn't up to par and they're just, let's say, a great interviewer, they will generally take themselves out of the equation. All right. That happens a lot. But if you don't stay on top of them and they see a free ticket, the golden ticket, as it's called, they're going to stick with you until you do something, and that will hurt you bad. Your EBITDA can suffer immensely if you have a team of folks that are just not doing their job. You know the story about right bus, wrong seat. Some of the
Yep.
folks that we've had to deal with were in the wrong zip code. The bus stop wasn't even near that zip code. And they were just, how they came to it, don't know. But, we found one director of operations for global supply chain in a closet asleep.
You see,
I'll stop at that point, Bob.
you mentioned
So, it's, once again, it's managers, it's not HR that create the risk. Okay. So,
yeah,
if you have a director getting paid 170, I think, a year, asleep in a closet, there's something really wrong.
yeah.
So I'll
We
end
we
that
missed
question right
something.
there.
We missed something big.
Yeah.
To take your how much this costed us and what was the value impact a little further, you mentioned, I'll pull one of the numbers that you just mentioned, $200,000.
Yeah.
A $200,000 hiring mistake, the impact of it doesn't just stop there. Put a 3, 4, and certainly a 5x multiple on that, and boom, there's your potential loss of value if that hiring mistake, occurred in the last year or two before going to market. Buyer's going to look at that and say, is that really an add back? Is that something we ought to ignore? Or is that, symptomatic of something that um, we need to pay attention to and dig into deeper as we do our due diligence on this company?
Absolutely. And your shareholders will not be very happy either. You know, when they're watching the numbers go down and they're trying to find out why, what's the variance for there, and you can't answer other than, well, we've made a couple bad hires. And let me to your audience, folks, you will make a bad hire. It happens. Everybody makes bad hires. Don't beat yourself up, but it's how quickly you act on it is what we're talking about here. And if you have the processes in place to identify that, it will happen sooner than later.
Great point. You know, you've mentioned you've had some stories. Appreciate you not mentioning names. Let's spend a little more time because
Hypothetically,
allegedly, uh,
allegedly.
let's talk about stories that reveal value killers. You know, the audience likes when we talk about real world situations that tend to highlight the true impact of these issues more clearly than theory. So, can you share a situation where failing to address an HR issue derailed or even delayed a deal, and what that owner learned from it?
Actually killed the deal. Um,
Okay,
about actually, you might remember the client. I won't mention them, but they provided um, automotive products to dealerships across
I
the
remember.
United States.
Yep.
Um, the one son was supposed to step up into his father's role when his father retired, but his son had several personal issues, several legal issues, was on second wife looking for the third wife. Um, and the company that was coming in looking to acquire said, you can't have this guy leading the ship. The ship's going to go down. And dad said, no, he's blood. He is my son. I will stand by him and make sure that he does the right things.
You
And
just minimize the buyer pool considerably when you do something like that.
right, right. And it was a $20 million business. It was a very hard fought, well managed business when dad was at the helm. Um, Dad retired. A couple years later, son came in, had a drug possession and distribution charge, and the
Oh,
company collapsed. So it
I
was
did not
a
realize that.
personal learning for the dad, but they lost, I think, a very good opportunity to sell the company at a very nice multiple. But
Yeah.
the acquiring company, I think he had two or three companies looking at him. The one that lasted the longest finally just said, if you're not going to put someone in there that can run this ship, or we might even put our own person in there. He said, no, this is a family run business and we'll continue. And well, that killed the deal.
Wow. Did not know that.
Yep.
Uh, all right. Let's on the flip side,
Sorry, guys.
improvement.
Let's pick this up.
Let's turn this around. Improvements in this area can have an incredible impact. All right. So you're probably expecting this question now: an unexpected HR improvement that dramatically increased buyer confidence, or call it, reduced the negotiation friction.
Yeah. Transparency. Who would have thunk it? You
Yeah.
know, it's free. And if it's crafted properly, how you communicate what you're doing, it will mean the world to your workforce. I'm going to turn the table. Bob, what is one of the biggest fears of any owner when you announce you're looking to sell the business?
Uh,
Brain drain,
I
brain drain, people
okay.
heading for the doors
I
because
was thinking, what's in the owner's mind, but great point. Key people
yeah,
that are just culturally and have been with the owner for so long, they know them so well, they could leave. And what retention mechanisms are in place or not in place
but
that
every time that can be solved with good communication. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing this. Here is the timeline. Here's what we can do to help you. Here's what we need. Transparency in the whole thing reduces that immensely. And in my small brain, I'm like, well, that would only scare people, right? No. Time and time and time again, I've seen it when the leader of the organization comes out and tells the team what is happening on a consistent basis and is honest about it, good, bad, or indifferent. People go, uh-huh. Why is that so important, Bob? I'll tell you why. Because without information, people will fill in the blanks with their own perception.
Every
And it's
time.
very rarely positive. It is
Yeah.
generally very negative. So that one thing has helped the buyer because they know that the key people are not leaving. Or if they're going to be leaving, it's going to be in an organized, manageable manner. So it has been a transformational situation in my mind when I hear the CEO go, okay, let's just keep this quiet, guys. And I'm going, no, we got to let everybody know.
Get
What?
ahead of this.
Are you crazy? And I'm like, yeah, I am, but it works. Okay. So
Mm.
transparency. People know what's going on. It builds trust, reduces disruption, and increases buyer confidence every single time, especially when the prospective buyer is sitting in on those meetings and they're reading the body language of these people. They're not the team isn't like all jittery. They're just like, it's another day. All right.
That's a
What do
great
we need to
point.
do?
I've sat in meetings between buyer and seller and key people before, and some issue comes up, and the buyer asks, "Well, how did you guys address this?" And the owner or seller starts talking, and a couple of key people are looking at each other. Did he just say that? We had
Right.
no idea that. Yeah.
Right. That's the transparency block. They're not communicating with each other in a fair and open manner. Now, granted, you can't tell everything to everybody. The guy pushing the broom does not need to know, what the share price is going to be or whatever. But, as long as we craft it so he or she understands what's going on, why it's happening, they are more likely to respect that individual for being honest rather than some shyster doing things to fill their pockets.
I think of it a lot of the potential hesitancy of owners to go here and to get ahead of this and be transparent has to do with how they think about HR risk in the first place. What are some big misconceptions that owners have about HR risk before a sale, and
Right.
you know,
Yeah, well, there's still that
why
perception.
why do they keep underestimating it?
Why, Lord? Why? What have I done to you? I don't set up Christmas parties for God's sakes. And there's still a lot of that um, old school perception that HR is the social directors, that HR is a necessary evil. It
I'd agree.
takes
I'd agree with both of those.
it's just ongoing education, time and time again. The issue that we have though is problems don't show up immediately, you know, and when they do, they show up with a vengeance. So you gotta be proactive. And a lot of the operational folks, again, no disrespect, I came from the operations side, they're not thinking about it and they say, well, what's HR doing? They're not doing anything. I don't see them. They're not creating something. So you have to be in front all the time saying, guys, here's what we're doing. Here's the process. Here's what I need by way of buy-in. And that's what resolves a lot of that, you know.
I was just thinking about it as you said the word. Leaders should put HR further front
Yeah,
in how information gets out in the company.
absolutely. But now, and I'm beating up my own profession a bit, a lot of the HR professionals I'm aware of are timid. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not so much, but a lot of them are timid. They don't want to cause a stir. And I'm going, no, you have got to get up in their face and tell them, slap them around a little bit. This is what you need to do, dummy, or
Are
else
you brought?
this is
Are you
the situation.
are you
Yeah,
guys often brought in to carry the water to make that message get out
all the
throughout a
time.
company? Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. Especially for the person that was voluntold that they're going to be the HR person. They're not expecting that kind of responsibility or stress. And yeah, so the owner is looking for that payday. And if they even have an HR department, a lot of times they just overlook that. Once again, it's the people out there that can destroy this deal if they're not careful. And HR is that link to make sure that the deal goes through, properly.
Yeah. Well, Scott, as we round third and start heading toward home, I mean,
Oh, I'm having too much
you
fun. Come on.
this
Let's
has
make
been
this a
awesome.
marathon. 3 hours.
You've
Come on.
you've dropped some awesome truth bombs here on our audience today. So let's start talking about takeaways and rapid fire. Our audience seems to like the rapid fire stuff. So here's a question: what
Okay.
HR metrics can owners start tracking today that directly correlate with stronger value creation?
Good question. I'm glad you sent that question to me because I actually have an answer. All right.
All right.
So, essentially, we have things such as revenue per employee. You need to track that. It is not that hard to track. There's plenty of software platforms that do that. And that's where you get that 15 to 20 to 1 ratio that we keep talking about. Make
Yep.
sure that you're tracking the fully loaded labor costs as a percentage of revenue. A lot of people get that wrong. Check your voluntary turnover rate. And this is your top performers versus your everyone else, your standard performers. Check your time to productivity. What that means is the ramp up period that you've heard. When you hire
Okay.
someone, people go, oh, it's going to take about 6 months to get this person fully functional. Okay, didn't swear. BS. That's nonsense. If
Yep.
they are qualified, it should take about 2 to 3 weeks maximum to get them up to speed and starting
If
to
if there's some
get.
intentionality in getting them up to speed is probably what you're thinking as well.
Yes, absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
granted, on the cultural side, it's best to observe and learn rather than come in and say, I'm here to take over. But they can start adding value within 2 to 3 weeks, and that's the time to productivity. If they are not doing anything by week 3 or 4, well, that's where your 30, 60, 90-day process comes in. You're talking with them saying, it's time for you to start add value here, or we may have an issue. Look at your employee utilization rate. Same thing. You have talented people there that you're paying to do a job. Make sure they're not sleeping in the closet.
Yeah. Are there, this is making me think of benchmarking. So I do valuation services also, and
Right.
we can benchmark the value of one company against others. I'm imagining there's some databases in the HR world where we can look at a company and all the metrics you just mentioned, the half dozen that you just rattled off there. Are there are there databases where we can take one company's metrics and compare it against their peers and say, here's where you are relative to your peers, and you let that serve as kind of an objective
Yeah.
push to get the leadership to think differently?
Yes. There is a database. Hewitt has
Okay.
a database. It's a subscription service. It's kind of pricey, but it's very good because they're actually disseminating the information versus pulling it off, the internet.
Right.
Um, So Hewitt's very good. Mercer's very good. Um, I would say those two are probably the predominant ones.
Okay. Next question. What is one HR conversation that every owner should have with their leadership team this quarter?
Yo, dummies, do we have the right people in the right place? And if not, why? Why? Like, that's been the common thread throughout this whole conversation today, Bob. Do we have the right people in the right positions, doing the right things at the right time? And if not, what are we doing to get rid of them, train them, re-educate them so they are doing the right thing? When you have people aligned with your goals and objectives, Your workforce is unstoppable. Your value will go up immensely. If you don't have that, you become a very strong target for someone like us to come in on the other side and say, wrong, 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 wrong. And your valuation, I guarantee, will go down. So the conversation is, do we have the right people in the right place, right roles, doing the right thing? And then the second part, if not, what are we doing to correct it? That needs to be a conversation as soon as you're done with this podcast.
Yeah. Excellent. And you know, this is making me think too about one of the resistance points, one of the reasons why owners overlook, ignore, push off these HR challenges and issues is, do you find there, especially in lower middle market companies, that there's often this feeling among leadership and maybe even certainly the owner, hey, we're all family here.
Right.
Just you want to take a minute to speak to that? How often do you run into, we're all family here, everything's working well, we don't need all these fancy this, that, or the other, nothing's blown up yet, but I mean, give our audience a
Yeah. Have
chance
you
to.
been to our house for Thanksgiving? It's ugly. Okay. Yeah. We're a family, all right. But boy, you better bring your body armor. It gets ugly. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, we hear that a lot. We're a family organization. We've been doing this for 45, 50, 100 years, and we've never had a problem. Why would we need you now? Well, because a lot of the times what happens is you're not seeing the problem. And there's somebody in your organization probably taking care of a lot of the issues without any type of announcement. But then when it gets out of hand, then it becomes a huge problem. And then those same people are the ones calling us going, figure out how we can get out of this. And all I can say at that point is open up your checkbook because it's going to get ugly. So it that's just the way it is. You can't change that.
so there's, if I hear you right, it's like there's this over dependence on certain people that may not even be key people, like C-suite or leadership people, but there's this dependence on the system continuing to work, the company continuing to function based on the presence of key people in the company. What happens if one of them's gone? Then how much of the system starts to fail?
Exactly. And usually it's like a domino effect. It goes tick, 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 and it just picks up speed. There
Yeah.
is a company up in Gainesville that the CEO, very brilliant guy, but he feels that because all his leadership team members came from other companies, they automatically know what to do by way of HR. And they had a wrongful termination suit. And after they spent a considerable amount of money, we were introduced to him, and he's like, "I don't know what happened. We've never had anything like this. This should not happen because I'm paying my people prime money to make sure this stuff doesn't happen." And I said, "You don't even have a handbook. You don't even have a discipline procedure. How could you not lose?" And I hate saying this because, again, if you remember at the beginning of the conversation, a lot of times it's just they don't know. They assume, they
Don't know.
figure that, well, this guy came from Harvard. Of course he understands employment law. Huh? He's in supply chain operations. He doesn't know employment law. Okay. But
Yep.
I've heard that. So yeah, when you have those assumptions, yes, you get into trouble. And then sadly, you have some HR people again that just don't know what they're doing, that are giving bad information to the leadership team, and then they take it as gospel truth, and then it's a run down that rabbit hole um, until friendly neighborhood attorney or a regulatory agency comes in and re-educates them.
Yep. This is how much that missed opportunity or that oversight cost you. Hey, continuing with the rapid fire stuff here. Biggest HR oversight that kills deals.
Uh, the HR professional that says, "Stand back, I got this covered."
Okay. A policy that owners think is important, but really doesn't move the needle.
And it doesn't move the needle, and not only that, but it self-incriminates them as well.
Yeah, great.
And yeah, I've sat in a couple early discussions with let's just say a firm that was acquiring another firm, and they had a HR director there that God love her. She just came in and she goes, I got this covered, everybody. You just sit back. And she
Yeah.
whipped out these documents, and I'm looking at them, I'm going, oh my God. So it happens, you know. I had to pull her aside and say, look, I've been doing this for 30 years. Could I give you a couple suggestions? And yeah, it didn't turn out too well. She quit like a week later,
Wow.
and the company had nobody, but is what it is. So, you know, again, it's just tying employees to some type of matrix process which is quantifiable, not subjective, and making sure you have the proper functional documentation so that you can prove, once again, it comes down to transparency, treating people with respect and dignity, that you are in fact doing what you say you're going to do, and that they can expect what you say you're going to do to be done.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that, Bob.
All right. What's one HR document that buyers immediately request early in due diligence? Listen up, everybody.
The employee census.
The employee census.
Uh,
So that's just the basic who works here, how much they getting paid, when were they
how,
hired.
how long they've been there, because if you're a good auditor, you're going to start seeing discrepancies. If it is well maintained, you're going to see that this company knows what they're doing, and that these two positions, which are equally qualified, these people are very close in their compensation. If you have one person that's the same as the other, and one's up here, the other one's down there, then
Yep.
you know you got a problem. Uh, it shows a lot of hidden risk right there. The other one, I'll give a bonus here, is the handbook. People go, the handbook. If you have a handbook that doesn't even talk about COVID protection, or calls computer hardware, talks about floppy disks, okay, you're going to have problems.
It's a
Why?
bit dated.
Stop laughing. It's true. I actually saw this last month. We walked in, they handed the handbook, and like, oh my God, it still says floppy disk in there. The first thing that any attorney is going to do, again, is say, show me your documents, show me your process. Are you doing what you say you're going to do? But for your audience, the employee census is a beautiful barometer of the health of that organization. And if you know how to read it, you can go in there and say, this organization is top notch, or this problem is going to kill it.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually don't fear due diligence as much as many other M&A people might. I view it as a chance for us to educate the buyer
Sure.
on how well built the company is, and basically between the information memorandum and all the document requests that come after that from the buyer, and our responses to it from the seller, this is our chance to show the buyer, this is the playbook. This is what's been built. This is why you want to buy it, and here's your owner's manual of sorts
Right.
that you will benefit from when you take over.
Yes, but I think you'll agree it is a fine line,
Yeah.
because it will either show that the company is doing well, is very organized, is not run perfectly, but run well, or it will be a oh no moment, because it'll also highlight areas of, weakness or disorganization. And based on your role within it, if you're buying it, that's your ticket to say, well, we got a problem here, and this is going to affect your valuation. Or if you're a owner, you're going to say, I got this all covered, guys. We may have a few issues over here. Those are minor. We can take care of them, but we got the golden ticket here.
Nice.
I mean, do you agree, disagree?
I
I'd like to.
like it. I think that's sound.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
cool.
All right. Final question. Owner is expecting to exit in the next 2 to 3 years, which I say is a minimum length of time you should start planning. What's the very first HR action? And I think I know the answer to this. The very first action they should take this month, and why?
That's a softball question. You need to hire my firm, and I'll tell you why. Because we have gone through 14 cycles on both sides of the table. We know how to look through that census. We know how to dig through and make sure that all the processes are in place, the matrix are in good shape, the engagement is there. So if you are looking to sell, then we can build up that trust. We can build the matrix to show that it's working. We can test it. But if you're acquiring, we can also come in and show the weaknesses so that
On the other side.
better valuation on the other side.
Yep.
So again, it comes down to, if you don't fix the employment compliance side, we're not talking payroll, we're not talking benefits. That's a sundry area. I'm talking about employment compliance side. If you don't take care of it proactively, it will be exposed during the due diligence process. That's
Yep.
that's a guarantee. Okay. And we want the very best outcome for our clients.
As buyers have options, yeah, they've got money and they're willing to spend it on the right opportunity, but they don't have to buy our clients' companies if too much doesn't add up.
Right.
Well, Scott,
Exactly. It comes down to, their level of comfort.
yep, this has been a great conversation. I mean,
Oh, thank
just
you.
fantastic.
I've had fun.
We've talked about a lot. Where can folks get a hold of you to learn more about the good work you do?
Absolutely. You can contact us online at www.tsghr.com, or you can call us at 1-800-961. I have to look at my notes here. 3053. That's 800-961-3053. Love to talk to anyone. Even if you just have a question, I enjoy educating the community. We enjoy educating the community. If we can help you with someone that may be struggling with a problem, as long as we're not getting into 3-4 hours of work, absolutely call. I want to help the community, and we'll do it pro bono. Love to help.
I've always known that about you all these years, servant spirit. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, folks, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Exit Teams podcast. A huge thank you to my guest, Scott Williams, for sharing his experiences and his expertise.
Thank you.
Hey, if you run a company and you want to get a handle on any potential HR exposures before taking your company to market, I suggest you reach out to Scott, see how he and his team can help. If you're a business owner thinking about your next chapter, now is the time to start building your advisory team. You can learn more in my book, Exit Teams. Build a team of advisors for your business sale to get a higher price. Available on Amazon. And don't forget to visit exitteams.com for free resources, tools, and a master class that can literally help you prepare for a successful exit. Until next time, build your team, sell smart, and take control of your future.